Alright, so today I'm going to walk through how I built this bookshelf. This one's going to be made out of birch, and it is going to end up being 42 by 28. And it was just under an inch thick once I was done with it. So the first thing I'm going to do is chalk a straight line and track saw it. That's the best way I know how to get a straight edge on a rough sawn piece like this. Maybe there's another way, but this is how I do it. So once I've got one straight edge, I'm going to take it over the chop saw and get my lengths roughly cut. Now, I'm definitely not a professional woodworker. I like to do this for fun or when I have free time or if I want to make something for myself. So this is definitely not the best way to do something or anything like that. It's just the way that I found to do it. So now I'm not going to rip these to their final length, but I'm just going to get both edges square to each other. So now this isn't a piece where I need to have any glue ups other than the box, but I personally like to joint one edge. It just makes everything obviously more straight to each other, and the way it sits against the fence on the table saw, it just makes everything, like I said, straighter. And on something that's stained grid, I think it matters. It's not necessary at all, but it's just what I like to do and what I decide to do here. So now I'm going to rip these down to their final length, which ended up being 9 1/4. So now I'm going to take it over the planer and get all the thicknesses the same as well. So now I know I need dust collection. That's the next thing on my list. That's what this project has made very apparent, is that I need dust collection. It hasn't been a big deal in the past because I don't do a ton of these kinds of things, but now I definitely will invest in a setup because between the table saw and planer and everything, it's too much for something like this. So after the planer, I'm going to run it through a drum sander, and this is just a small little 10-inch one, and it works out perfectly because these are 9 1/4, so just one pass through does it. And on this, I'm just doing 80 grit here. Now I don't have any set thickness or length or width, it's just whatever I can get the maximum out of the piece that I can. So like I said, it just ended up being just under an inch, and the lengths and widths are just what they are. So before I take it over and cut the miters, I'm going to roughly sand them. I'm just going to go from 60 to 120 and just get them to a point where after I glue up there's not a bunch of sanding. But I will go up to 220 in the end. Now I'm going to put a round over on the front two edges. This is a 1/4 inch round over, and it's just the detail that I wanted, so that's what I went with. So you can see there's a pretty big knot on the back side there, and that's actually going to be where the legs are mounted to. It's the bottom side, so that was the best place I could put it, and I had to use this piece somewhere, so that's where I ended up using it. So now I'm going to set up the table saw to cut the miters, and one mistake that I made here was not actually making the cut at a 45. I made it at 44.7, I believe. and that was just a mistake. The outside came together perfectly, but the inside was good, but it just wasn't great. And if I did it again, I would cut it at an exact 45. Now, I didn't have a sled that could cut a miter, and I should have just stopped and made one, but I could get away with using this. I don't even know what it is. It is kind of a sled, but a guide or something, and I could do it, so I did it. But again, I shouldn't have. I should have just made the correct tool. So I'm just going with one shelf in the middle, and I'm going to stop an inch shy of the front with my dado. This is going to be a 3/4 bit, but my shelf is actually going to be just about 7/8, and I'll show you how I cover the reveal with slightly rabbiting out both sides of the shelf, and then I'm going to stop an inch shy of the front and notch the shelf as well, and obviously later on you'll see how that all comes together. So now obviously I'm ready to glue up the box, and I'm going to go ahead and do that. And I'm just going to use a couple 90-degree clamps. And on the bottom here, I know a real woodworker will probably be rolling around in their grave, but I'm going to use a couple 18-gauge just brads to secure the bottom, just as another pair of hands or as a clamp. And again, it's where the legs are, it's on the bottom. Obviously I'm not going to do this on the top, but it was something gluing up this by myself. That was an easy and effective way to get it where I wanted it. I haven't done very many stain grade pieces. I've done, 4 or 5 pieces of kind of furniture that are paint grade, but never stain grade, so this is kind of a new one for me. And one thing for sure is the glue cleanup. I have not been the greatest at. I'm not sure, like on the inside of the miters and where the shelf goes and places like that, it's just hard to get the glue completely out. And I feel like in the finish, it showed slightly. Like I don't think the average person would ever notice it, but I do. And so that was one thing also that I needed to do a little bit better job at, is cleaning up the glue completely before it dried. So after it's dried for a couple hours, I'm going to take the clamps off and get onto the back. So for the back, I decided to just go with 1/4 inch ply, and so I'm going to rabbit out a slot for that on the back. I don't know, again, maybe I could have done this beforehand, like with the table saw or something, but this is just how I decided to do it. So now I'm just cutting down my shelf to length. It's already milled and sanded, so I'm just getting the length cut here. So here I'm just marking out my rabbet for my shelf where it's going to slide into the dado. And it's very slight. It's only about a 1/16 on both sides because the 3/4 bit, and then yeah, like I said, this piece is like 7/8, so it's very slight, but I think it covers the reveal a lot nicer than if you just slide the piece in on the dado. So here I'm gonna notch out the 1-inch back that I left the dado, just so that obviously it can slide all the way forward. And on the dado, I went 5/16 deep. I don't know if that's good or bad or whatever. That's just what I felt like was enough. And with some wood glue, and it's not that big of a piece. That's just what I did. And I didn't make it super snug. It's definitely, you know, tight, I guess you would say, but it's definitely not bowing it out or, you know, too hard. It hurt my hand to push it forward, so that's why I'm tapping it with the block, but it fit in there actually pretty nicely. So then I just wanted to double check that the back panel was going to sit flush and that nothing was going to have a gap or something like that, because on something like this with stain, I think that would be pretty apparent. So now I'm going to cut down my 1/4-inch ply for the back. Now, one tool that I've used a lot recently is this cordless track saw, and I can tell you the cordless anything is nice, but especially the track saw I've noticed the most is something that's super helpful. Now I'm just rounding over the edges here on the back because I just left it rounded. I think if you ever look at the back, it looks a little nicer. It's not necessary. I could have just, you know, made it square, but I decided to round these over. And you can see in the middle there where I had dadoed out for the shelf, I had run my rabbiting bit in there just slightly when I first started. And yeah, so it's things like that where just little mistakes that were unnecessary that happened. But here I'm just taking some 23 gauge pins and pinning it just to make sure it's all, you know, staying in there. And then I'm gonna also shoot some along the shelf as well. The zit all glued up. Now I'm going to move on to cutting all my leg pieces. So I didn't have a specific design in mind for these legs. I just kind of made a couple different drawings of things and went with one of them. So this is what I came up with here. And I made that top length where the two like kind of stretcher pieces in between will meet at 2 1/4, and that's what I'll also make. Obviously the pieces going across is 2 1/4. Now I should have left these pieces long because it was hard to clamp this. That was kind of a mistake. If I had a bandsaw, it wouldn't be a problem, but I don't. And so it was not the greatest. I shouldn't have cut this piece so small and then try to clamp it. But after I got one, I'm just going to trace it and then cut the other 3 out and have 4 of these. So then obviously there's more sanding, plenty of it on this project. So now I'm gonna rip down the pieces to 2 1/4 for the front and back runners. So and then the pieces that are running from front to back, I'm going to miter or angle at the same angle that the legs are, the 4 pieces. So I think it looks a lot cleaner than just going straight. I think on the side view it's very obvious if it's not at the same angle. Now I'm just going to put all these pieces together with pocket screws. I really like this castle pocket jig. It makes all the holes straight, or the pocket holes straight, and the Craig just makes, you know, at slight angles, it makes it hard for those pieces to come together unless they're really clamped down. So I really like the castle pocket holes, and even just their screws and everything. That's definitely one thing I like a lot more than, you know, most people just use the Craig pocket jig, but this one I almost don't even have to clamp it. I can just hold it with my hand and screw it together. I'm going to do the same 1/4 inch roundover that I did on the face of the box on these legs on both sides. This was also another mistake here. I made the legs a little bit too narrow on the first one. I didn't record redoing it, but I just made these pieces a little bit longer because I think I gave it like 1.25" reveal on the front, but it just looked too narrow and it felt like fine. It wasn't wobbly, but it just looked a little awkward, so I made these a little bit longer, but it's the same idea. So now I'm just going to clamp it in place where I want it and screw from the bottom with some more pocket holes. And again, this length isn't the actual that it'll be. I'll put it up and then realize that it doesn't look quite correct, and then I'll redo it. So here it is. This is with the finished legs and everything. So I think it came together pretty good. Obviously, there's some things I would change, but all in all, for a piece like this, and once it's, you know, stained and lacquered, it came out pretty good. So I'm decently happy with it. But yeah, there's a couple things like on the inside with the miters, like it came together okay, but to me, I just don't like that there, and I could have got it better, and so it, you know, doesn't feel the greatest when it comes out looking like that. And same thing on this other side. And then on the back, there was this chip out. I'm not sure when or how that happened, but that was a little bit unfortunate there. The shelf, it came together pretty good. That's where the reveal is covered there. That one came out a little bit better than this side. Again, that's good, but it's just not quite as tight as I would want, but it all came together. So for what it is, it's pretty good, so I'm happy with it. Now this is the finished product after I stained and lacquered it. This is the first project where I've gone all the way, both building it and finishing it, so there's some things both obviously with the finishes and the building that I would do differently, but all in all I think it came together pretty good. But yeah, this is the whole piece here, and just let me know what you guys think, if there's things you would do differently or better or whatever. I'm curious, but yeah, this is it.